Retiring from property at 35 or 65. Let's discuss the property investing strategies that can allow you to retire at 35 rather than holding out to the average retirement age of 65. Now, the path to financial freedom through property investment is going to be a little bit different to what you see around you. Not many people are able to achieve retirement or financial freedom by the ages of 35, and most everyday Australians will reach retirement at 65 with some super, maybe their own home, and maybe one or two investment properties. So how can you live differently and create more choices in your life and not necessarily retire at 35, but have a lot more control of your time, a lot more control of your finances and your decisions moving forward? I'm personally not interested in waiting until the age of 65 to have choices to go on overseas holidays. I want to have my cake and eat it too, and I want to do that at a much younger age. So 35 seems like a much more reasonable target to myself. Now, if you're already over the age of 35, these principles will still apply to you, but I think you need to take a 10 to 15 year horizon to go on this more aggressive income building strategy through property investment. For me, in this example of retiring at 35, you'd be starting out at the age of around 20 years old. So it's about a 15-year horizon from start to finish to reach that financial freedom goal. So if you're already 35, 40, 45, look at that 15-year horizon as to how you can retire earlier and with more financial freedom. So the first thing you're going to need to do is develop a plan. Now, we do this at Purpose Property in our buyer's agency, but you can sit this and do this on the back of a napkin, back of an envelope, and run the numbers based on what you need in your life. Now, most Australians are going to say they want $100,000 of passive income or 10 properties in 10 years. That's just a very generic goal. And for me, I don't actually think that suits a lot of people. Emily and I have sat down and looked at our personal strategy, and our base FIRE, or our base financial independence, was around about the 50K mark. Based on our living expenses, being frugal and keeping quite a comfortable lifestyle, for around about 50K passive income, we could have quite a decent lifestyle, and that would allow us to leverage into other businesses, leverage into other property deals, and take back control of our time. And that's exactly what we've done. We work towards that 50K target, and the next goals for us are 100K and then $150,000. Now, you might be single and you might be happy on $60,000, $80,000 passive income a year. Or you might be a couple and 100K passive income might not suit you. You might want a bigger lifestyle, so you might want to target $200,000 a year. It comes down to you as a couple or an individual and looking at your circumstances to set your plan out. So work backwards from your end goal. So if you've got 15 years and you're already halfway through that journey, over this next 7-8 years, how can you reach your end goal? Now, for Emily and I, we're looking to get to that $150,000 passive income. And our portfolio derives over $200,000 at this point in time. So for us, it might be some debt minimization strategies rather than continuing to acquire lots more assets. Now, we're probably still going to acquire assets that help boost our passive income, but you need to look at your own circumstances and your own timeline, put those together, and develop the plan. The next thing you'll need to do is invest in income generating property. Without the passive income or cash flow spinning off your property portfolio, you're not going to have any excess cash to live off. Now, it's all well and good being a billionaire on a balance sheet, but if you have no access to cash, then your lifestyle is unlikely to change. I wholeheartedly admit that you could sell down a portfolio if you had $5 or $10 million worth of equity, which is great. But for me, I want to build a portfolio and hold that asset base and have the passive income pay me over time. So our personal strategy has been to start with capital growth and also look for cash flow properties over time. So we're focusing on capital growth first because we need that equity and capital to acquire future properties. But once we've acquired the asset base we need, that's when we're transitioning to cash flow assets, looking to pay down debt, restructure, and create more passive income. Now, there's 1,000,001 strategies out there, but that's been what Emily and I have used in our journey. Going for growth first, manufacturing value, looking for blue chip locations that have long-term growth potential, refinancing the equity, and acquiring more assets. Once we have enough assets, that's when we're looking to transition to more cash flow. So buying a unit block in Coffs Harbour, for example, or being able to add a granny flat to our properties down the track. Those types of options allow you to boost the cash flow once you've already had the growth and equity created in your portfolio. Now, point number 3 is looking at your burn rate, or you're living below your means. So what is your burn rate? Is it 50K a year? Is it 100K a year? the less you can live with, the faster you can track this journey. Now, you hear people talk about saving 80%, 100% of your income. Now, that's all well and good if you're earning $5 million a year, but most Aussies are going to be earning something like 60 to 160K as a single or a couple. Now, in these circumstances, it is important to try and minimize your expenses. Is there a way you could live in a share house? Is there a way you and your partner can split the rent? Is there different ways to reduce your living expenses? I also advocate on the flip side, not cutting down too much because you want to enjoy life. We don't know how long we're going to be on this earth for, and it's a very short period of time in my point of view. So don't minimize everything and cut out things that bring you joy in your current life just to sacrifice for the future. You need to find the balance. A good example of that is people who cut out their everyday coffee. You might save $4 or $5 a day, but if it gives you a pep in your step and it allows you to be motivated and get on with your day, then don't cut out the everyday coffee. Yes, you might want to make a few at home to save a few bucks, but $15 a week isn't really going to make the difference in your property portfolio. Using leverage and acquiring assets that can grow in value and creating passive income off the back of that is how you can retire early. So when it comes to living below your means, I'd highly advocate for looking at those biggest expenses first. So your rent, obviously, or your interest on your mortgages, and then any other major expenses like holidays or lifestyle expenses. Look at those big chunks first, and then look at the smaller expenses that are adding up. Now, this leads me into the next point, which is using leverage to your advantage. This has been what Emily and I have been able to do in growing over a $5 million property portfolio. We've been able to use leverage and use that to our advantage. Now, leverage is essentially when you're using other people or the bank's money to increase your investment assets. This can help you scale your portfolio quickly and generate greater returns over a shorter period of time. This is how you can create equity and cash flow in a 15-year period rather than over that 35-year window and retiring at 65. So if you want to get there early and you want to retire at 35 or in the next 15 years, you need to try and use leverage to your advantage. Now, of course, there is definitely risk associated with this. You can imagine if you take on $1 million worth of debt and the assets increase by 10%, you're creating $100,000 of equity on top. But if the value of the asset falls by 10%, then you could be in a negative equity position, assuming this is a hypothetical scenario, because you owe the bank money and the assets have devalued. So in my opinion, you should be able to use debt to your advantage, acquire investment grade assets, and hold those assets over a long period of time. So it's all well and good to hold assets for a long period, but how are you going to get there quicker? We've got a plan, we know what our strategy is, we're looking at capital growth and cash flow, we've got our expenses in order, and we want to work with the banks to leverage our money. But how can you get there faster? This is where manufactured value comes in. And this is scary for a lot of people, whether it's renovations, it's developments, or it's subdivisions or granny flats. Adding value to your property portfolio, in my opinion, is going to help you the most in terms of fast tracking your journey. Now, I'm not 35 at this point, and Emily and I are well on track to our financial independence goals, and we've hit our base level of financial freedom. I think some of the reasons we've been able to get here so quickly is we've taken advantage of the bank's money. I obviously have my background as a chartered accountant, which really helps us in terms of the finances, because property is largely a game of finance. But adding value throughout our property portfolio has been a big driver in allowing Emily and I to take the next steps, going from properties 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, and so on. If we hadn't done the renovations on each of the properties we bought, we wouldn't have been able to pull out over $700,000 worth of equity and buy a unit block in Coffs Harbour. Without that capital growth and appreciation, or creating that value through cosmetic renovations, Emily and I wouldn't be where we are today. Now, it's been a lot of hard work, and if you enjoy renovations, you might have seen some of the series on the YouTube channel. So if you're looking to get started, I would look at doing cosmetic renovations where you can update the kitchen, update the bathroom, and add value by lifting the home's quality and appeal to tenants and the market in general. Now, the last key point to reach this goal of retiring at 35 or in the next 15 years is to monitor and adapt your portfolio as you progress. It's very important not to be stuck in one train of thought, not to say that blue chip is the only way or cash flow properties are the only way. There's lots of different avenues, lots of ways you can learn from other people and be adjustable and honest to yourself in these situations. For me, this looks like continually learning. Whenever I'm renovating or I'm at the gym, I quite enjoy listening to property podcasts and hear about other people's journeys. And I try and take bits of information from other people's strategies and put them into my own portfolio plan. This can allow allow you to rebalance your property portfolio, boost your savings rates, and create more cash flow, which then allows you to retire faster. This is not a pie in the sky strategy. This is definitely achievable for everyday Australians, but it is a lot of hard work and it does take some education and some sacrifice. So most importantly, it's about enjoying the journey and spending your time wisely. We only get one chance to spend our days here on this earth, so make sure you spend your time wisely with the people that you love and don't sacrifice everything just to reach your goal of retiring early. It's about finding that balance and creating a lifestyle that suits you. For me, that looks like spending time on my business, spending time with my loved ones, playing soccer, going to the gym, and finding the balance in each of those things. I also really enjoy renovating, getting my hands dirty, and looking at projects and looking at creating equity, cash flow, and adding value. So I hope you can find the plan and strategy that suits you and allows you to reach your end goal. If you want to sit down with myself and have a chat, head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free strategy session with myself, where we'll sit down and talk about your situation, your short and your long-term goals, and how we can potentially help you buy a property in the Southeast Queensland market. Otherwise, if you don't have any property to your name and you're starting from scratch, you should click this video over here where I talk about building wealth in 2023 when you're starting from nothing. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.